Thank you guys so much for being with us. We appreciate you. Welcome to A Look on the Plus Side. I'm your host, Rob Whiteside. Thanks for being with us on your Wednesday night. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel. I swear we're usually not this technology challenged. And tonight with me, talking about Something Wicked This Way Comes, is my friend Ron Deanna. Ron, can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. All right, we're cooking with
All right,
gas
good.
now. Yeah.
Happy to be
Um,
talking about this basket making documentary, Something Wicker This Way Comes.
No, I see. I was going to do a wicked joke. I was going to say we're going to be talking about something wicked, and then this way comes. I mentioned this. You know what? This is not a movie that I had seen before. This is Ray Bradbury's Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I was watching. I'm always watching the Disney Plus, and I saw it come across, and I was like, well. Wait a minute. I've never seen this on Disney Plus before, so I was kind of shocked to see it. And but it showed up here, and again, I don't think it's been on here the whole time, but they added it, I'm sure, for Halloween. And it is Disney's Something Wicked This Way It Comes. It's from 1983. The 1980s were a weird time for Disney because they were doing a whole bunch of like experimental stuff. Ron Miller, Walt's son-in-law, was at the helm of the company, and he was trying a bunch of different things to make Disney relevant in this new era of movie making. And so he did things like Tron, and another one that you and I have revisited before, Return to Oz. And then there was one called The Watcher in the Woods, which is like famously like a really super dark movie. And then the Black Cauldron, which was like their first PG animated movie. So I feel like they were really trying to take a darker tone, and how can you get more scary than a movie entitled Something Wicked This Way Comes? You've seen it though, right? I mean, you had seen it before we
Yeah,
watched it for
I
tonight.
I watched it, for this, and I think I've seen it before. I definitely remember at least starting it. I'm not sure if I'd finished it before. I know I've started the book a couple times and never finished. Uh, because I read Bradbury in the past, like Illustrated Man and stuff, and I like him as an author, but something about this just never grabbed me. And I don't know, maybe it just skews a little younger than I was by the time I tried to get to it. But this was supposed
It's
to be Disney's foray into adult movies. Like,
I was gonna say you were talking about like it being younger, but again, it's rated PG. Well, let's take a look at the stat board here and get the facts straight. So it has a runtime of 1 hour and 35 minutes, which is about a family movie length. The release date was April 29th, 1983. They originally had tried to get this out before Christmas, but had like 6 months of rewrites and a
oh,
whole bunch of stuff that they had to do to it. Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second. The rating of it is PG. I feel like it could have gone even a little bit more if PG-13 had existed at the time. The budget was $20 million. It wasn't what they set out with the budget, but they kept going up and up and up as they went through. And then at box office, it only brought in $8.4 million, and they couldn't have been happy with that.
no. But yeah, as you were saying, the production was a disaster. So Bradbury had been trying to make this since before it was a novel. It came off a short story, I believe, in the late 40s or 50s. And then it was supposed to be like, uh, I think not Cary Grant.
Kirk Douglas.
No, no, even before him, it was somebody else from the Cary Grant era who was supposed to be
Oh, Gene
attached to it.
Kelly.
Gene Kelly. And, it just never went and stayed in production hell for years. It was a Paramount. It was actually Eisner's protege, Barry Diller, who kind of killed it at Paramount when then Disney eventually got the rights. And the director was someone who'd been, Bradbury had been working with this entire decades trying to get this turned into a movie. And then Disney, by the end of it, is just like, we don't like what you did here. Like, this is not what we wanted as like a, kids coming into adulthood kind of scary movie. So they fired him in the middle of the editing process, went back for 6 months of reshoots, costing $4 million, which was 25% over budget at that point.
Right.
Fired the editor, redid it. Like, I didn't notice this. They said something like maybe I wasn't paying enough attention because I wasn't thinking about it. But they said the kids were noticeably different ages in
Right.
certain scenes. Um, I mean, I don't know if I could tell 6 months apart for a couple kids in that age group. Um, but like, it's so there were just so many weird things. Like, for some reason, they cast the dark-haired boy as the blonde, bleached his hair, cast the blonde-haired boy as the dark-haired, and dyed his hair. Like, this whole thing felt weird, and they were trying to use new effects, and it just nothing clicked to me. But
Yeah.
it's got pretty good like Rotten Tomato scores, like not horrible. Like the audience rating is actually really high. If I remember, like upper 80s.
Yeah. Honestly, again, this is not a movie that I had seen before. And I don't know why I would have missed this one. Maybe, at that age, my parents
It's
wouldn't have taken me to see this one. But
Well,
I
nobody
mean,
saw it apparently, right?
yeah, I mean, like looking at the other things that came out from Disney during those years, Popeye. I saw that Fox and the Hound. I saw that Condor Man. I loved Condor Man, and we still haven't seen that one show up. But they had some weird stuff like The Devil and Max Devlin and Dragon Slayer and um, Trench Coat, and then like of course Something Wicked This Way Comes. I mentioned Watcher in the Woods, the Bette Midler movie. Bette Midler, Betty Davis, not Bette Midler, Betty Davis movie. But that one, honestly, I had never seen it. I watched. Did you watch Ted on Paramount, the series, the TV series?
No, I've never watched the movie either.
I mean, it wasn't Paramount; it was Peacock. The Ted the I love Seth MacFarlane, and so the Ted TV series I thought was pretty funny. It's a prequel. And there's a bit on one of the episodes where they want to watch a scary movie, and their cousin had rented Watcher in the Woods, and they're like, "Ah, it's a Disney movie, it's not scary." And then they watch it, and then they're like terrified. So that one's pretty dark, the Watcher in the Woods, and that's not available on
We've
Disney Plus.
you've covered that before, right?
No,
No?
I've watched it, but no, we've never covered it before because it's one of those that's just not on any of
And
the
it's
streaming services.
and I mean this one like only got a like it it's been easy to miss since it came out because Disney I'm sure it may have been on VHS at one point, but there was no DVD release until very recently, right before they killed the Disney Movie Club, and it was a Disney Movie Club exclusive release.
Huh.
So like this as a wide release, like recently, I think just in the last couple of weeks, is like the only way you could have gotten it if you didn't have a way to see it before. And I think I probably did order it off the Disney Movie Club because I had thousands of points. So when anything that ever came up as an exclusive, I mean, I have like Super Dad on DVD for some reason. Like,
Yeah, again, I mean, there was an era like, I mean, we're not even gonna talk Song of the South, but there was an era where they were burying a bunch of these movies. Black Cauldron was one of those movies that you couldn't get it on VHS, on DVD. It was hard to come by until they finally just kind of owned it at some point. But like I said, there's a lot of stuff that's still not on Disney Plus, like Condor Man and like The Watcher in the Woods, that I feel like that in 2025 they should just put it all out. They should just put everything out there. I don't know why.
yeah, I think Condor Man just even became just available to purchase on iTunes in the past couple months because I remember I bought it fairly recently, like to have that. So, but yeah, this is that. I mean, you look at this movie and it. I don't like to say stinks of the Miller era. I think he tried to do a good job. But if you look at what they said, it's like they were so obsessed with what would Walt do, they just took it the wrong way and just tried to reiterate things Walt did, which was just grab kids' books and try and make them things. They didn't try to do anything original, which is what Walt would really have done, right?
Yeah. No, well, Walt bought good amount of
Yeah,
stories, didn't he? Like, I mean, Mary Poppins, and he. I feel like he liked
but he
adapting
didn't stay
adapting
beholden
stories.
to them. And this kind of, I mean, obviously Bradbury was still involved. He was involved in the rewrites and stuff like that. But like, he knows a book doesn't always make a good movie.
Yeah. No, you're right. I think the fact that Ray Bradbury was attached to this is probably what carried it through to fruition. And
Because
he,
they were
he.
working. I wonder if they're producing this at the time was when they were having him produce Spaceship Earth, like the
I don't
first
know.
draft of the Spaceship Earth script would have been similar to when this like got pulled out of Paramount in the late '70s and over to Disney where it developed.
Well, again, he wrote the story, as you mentioned. He wrote it originally to be a movie, and then no one would make it a movie, so he wrote it as a book, and then they adapted it into the movie with him as the writing the screenplay. But then, as we mentioned at the beginning, there were so many changes. The original score they thought was too creepy, so they had James Horner come in and do the score.
And so, hold on, did it just rip off the
Empire
Imperial
Strikes
March
Back.
almost the entire way through? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm just glad I wasn't feeling that. Like,
Yes, the Imperial March is absolutely the genesis for that because of that would have come out in with the original Star Wars, and then this came out in '83. So he definitely seems like he was influenced, if not ripping off the original music. But the guy who wrote the music beforehand, they said it was too creepy, so they went with the James Horner. That was part of that remake. Apparently, the special effects, as you mentioned, were supposed to be better, but they cut out a whole bunch of stuff when they went to redo this, and I think it shows. I think it shows that it jumps around a lot in a weird way. So at the heart of this, if we kind of just recap this story and put a bow on it, the story is that there's a carnival that comes to town and preys on people's like deepest, darkest desires, and then turns them, basically does like a genie wish on them and turns their darkest desires, makes them come true, but makes them regret them. And these two little boys in the town, Will and Jim, see it all happening, and then the owner of the carnival, Mr. Dark, hunts them down to try to, to get them. And then
you know,
at the same time, there's like a B story, which could be the A story about Jason Robards' character. That he, Mr. Holloway, he is an older dad and has some demons about how he regrets not saving his son when he was little, and he regrets how old he is, and so he's tempted to be younger, and so Mr. Dark kind of tries to tempt him into that. But again, that's like the basic gist of it. But there's all these other little things that happen during the thing where they kind of shove these characters in your face and go, hey, here's Ed the bartender, and he has one arm and one leg, but he wishes he had two and wants to play football. And
yeah,
then
the story, there's so many story threads, and they come out more like a bowl of spaghetti than a tapestry.
yeah. But again, I wonder if that's because of the rewrites and
Oh,
like all
this
of that.
movie, yeah, there's rewrites, there's re-editing. Like, that's what happens when, I mean, I'm surprised it's not an Alan Smithy film. Like, I'm really surprised the director kept his name on it.
Well, the director was Jack Clayton. The writer was Ray Bradbury. Let's talk a little bit about this cast, because again, I mentioned
The cast is great.
that Gene Kelly was originally kind of attached to it to direct, and then Kirk Douglas was at some point attached to it to maybe star in it, or was courted to star into it. Other people for Mr. Dark that they were talking about were like Peter O'Toole was one of them, Christopher Lee was one of them. They wanted some British menacing character, but they went with Jonathan Pryce. Jonathan Pryce, of course, every time I see him, I think of him as Emma Swan's dad from Pirates of the Caribbean now. Like, that's like, he used to do like car commercials back in the like 80s and 90s, I think, but like I see him now and I think of him as Emma Swan's dad. That's what I see.
Yeah, I mean, his presence worked. I think it actually came off right, but it feels like they, said, "Get me Vincent Price," and they got the wrong price. Excuse me.
The wrong price. Yeah. There's some weirdness that happens with him where like here's a scene where the boys are hiding in the in the gutters or in the sewers, and he's standing there talking to their dad, or Will's dad, and doing this squeeze thing with his hand and making it bleed. And I'm not really sure. There was also the
It,
scene where he
it doesn't
brings them
come off
in
as
and
menacing.
yeah.
It's supposed to be, and it just doesn't.
I'll tell you what No, I don't want to jump ahead yet. I was going to say, I'll tell you what does. There is a part that I do find menacing about the whole thing, but um, yeah, there's some of it that doesn't seem too menacing. This is supposed to be, I think, menacing with his little band of clowns, and it almost comes off a little like Willy Wonka ish, actually, with his hat and his cane there. I don't know. Um, but yeah, Jonathan Pryce was Mr. Dark, and there's just not a lot of explanation really. It's just like this carnival comes to town. The boys find out about it and they're excited about it, so they see the train coming in the middle of the night and they go to where the train is going, and then the carnival's already set up, but there's nobody there. Apparently, it was supposed to be that the train was supposed to turn into the carnival with these special effects that they were doing, but
Yeah, it was
it
supposed to be
doesn't
the
really
first
explain
major
it.
CG effect.
Yeah, it doesn't
They
really explain
said.
it though. It's just like, oh, there it is. There's the carnival. Um,
I mean,
but I
that
do
adds
think,
menacing that the carnival's just there. That adds some sort of thing. And this just occurred to me as we've been
okay,
talking. Um, so I want to get the thought out before I forget about it. Is they talk about how this has come to town like in 1891 when it was Holloway's dad was the minister. What first? What year is this supposed to be? Because I was getting like teens from like the tech and the look of things. But if it was 1891, more people in town would remember something from that era. You
so
know,
yeah, so one of the things I heard was it was supposed to be the 1940s. Another thing that I heard was it was supposed to be the 1920s, which this is loosely based on Ray Bradbury went to a carnival and there was a guy sort of like a Mr. Dark but not menacing, named like Professor Electric or something like that, and that was the inspiration originally for this story, and that happened in the 1920s, and therefore he kind of had it there. So I think it's either 1920s, 1940s, but I
okay, the
mean that's a
20s
big
would make
jump.
more sense from like what we see like around. But like as it's like, but the whole thing where it comes to town every generation or so, I was wondering like, do you think Stephen King got any influence for it from that?
Maybe,
Because
maybe.
I mean, it just that's what just occurred to me. I'm like, well, thinking about it, like this comes to town to prey on people's fears in a way, and it's like a generational thing, and like, huh, that makes sense to me. But
Well, and the fact that Jason Robards' character, Mr. Holloway, is basically portrayed as like the oldest man in town, and that there was his father, who was a preacher who documented the last time this happened, who then talked about the last time it happened before that in his diary.
right, right. But
It
even if
does
it
make it that no one else might know about it.
even if it happened, even if this was in the 40s, which we'll say was 50, like post-war, we'll say 55 years after 1891, like he would have been around to remember. Like he's kind of presented like he's in his 60s here. Like
Hmm.
it's something like he would have memories of.
Yeah. Oh, he is in his 60s, yeah, because of that one scene where he's talking about how young. Again, I don't want to get there yet, but um, yeah, I agree with you. It does seem a little out of place, but the whole thing's a little bit all over the place too, right? It's a little bit disjointed. So I think that the fact that they never really specifically say when this was, it opens up with a narrator. And again, what I've read and what I've gone back to as far as like researching this is that the narrator wasn't part of the original. That was a plot device they used to stitch this together once they made all the changes. And so the narrator is supposed to be older Will, the young blonde kid, and talking about when this, carnival came to town and, when all of these things happened. So, um, that's again, he doesn't really say when it is now, but he does kind of set the scene of what it is we're going to say. Let me get back to the cast though for a second, Ron. Like, so this Mary Grace Kenfield, who was the school marm. I definitely remember her from Pollyanna. And she was on Green Acres. I definitely remember seeing her there. She was in that Tabitha, which was a spinoff of Bewitched. She was on The Love Boat, so she was definitely a known actress
Yeah.
who had been around for a while. But She was Mrs. Kravitz on Bewitched, so I guess she was on both of the series, and definitely had been around for a while. So she was there. Diane Ladd was in it, but she was the like Mrs. Nightshade, Jim's mom. So we don't
Yeah,
really.
small
I
part.
feel. Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like she was really like a small part there. Pam Grier was in this as the Dust Witch, which again, that's a character that completely like I didn't get at all because sometimes the first time they saw her, she was like laying in a casket that was like a casket, but then they look away and then it was a see-through block of ice or something, and then the
Before
guy
the
who
thing
was
even gets to town, like it's
yeah
there's just no narrative that like there's no
right no
through
point.
line.
Yeah, but she just would pop up everywhere as everybody's like kind of like linchpin or dream, like the guy who was the lightning rod salesman, Tom Fury, which is weird. He was that's like he's enamored by her, and then Holloway kind of sees her, and then all of these other guys are like bewitched by her, but she is the Dust Witch. And again, she doesn't really say anything. She just kind of just appears from place to place in different forms. She's on the Ferris wheel next to the one guy, and then she's in the gypsy tent, and then she's in the like it's weird. It's a weird thing. But anyway, that's Pam Grier. And then Dodson was Dr. Douglas. Now Jack Dodson I remember from the Andy Griffith Show. And he did some more modern things, but I just remember him from he was Howard on the Andy Griffith Show, which then carried over to Return to Mayberry. He was on Mama's Family, so he was a character actor from a lot of different things, but he was very underplayed here, and I wondered if maybe the original, he was the town doctor. I wondered if for some reason maybe he had a bigger part. And maybe same thing with Diane Ladd. Maybe she had a bigger part in the original before they redid it all. Like that's the part that I was wondering about too. But also, it's 90 minutes. Not everybody can get a lot of screen time, and a lot of that goes to Jonathan Pryce and to Jason Robards.
Yeah,
What
it's a good cast, and it's not their fault, but you could tell it's the rewrites, it's the remake. It just nothing good ever comes of that.
So one I want to talk about for all the Disney fans. One that I want to talk about that I heard the voice, and as soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, I know that this is exactly who this is. Is the lightning rod salesman Tom Fury is played by Royal Dano. Are you familiar with Royal Dano?
Yes, and I know it took me a minute to realize who the name, but he was Lincoln, right?
Yes,
Was he the voice of
exactly.
Lincoln? Yeah.
Yeah. So he was Lincoln in the Hall of Presidents in 2017. So like when he's selling Jim, so he goes to Jim's house and Will's house, and they're side by side, and he's like, one of these houses feels like it needs a lightning rod. It's this one. It's Jim's house. Jim is his dad isn't in the picture, which again is a real mystery. And so he runs into the house and is like, I'm going to be the protector of this house. I'm going to buy this lightning rod to protect my mom, protect my house, be the man of the house. And so he goes in, gets some money, and brings it back and hands it to the old man. And when he's like, oh, like, how much do you have, son? And when he said that, it was like, oh my gosh, that's Lincoln. Like, that feels like Lincoln. Like if like history. Okay, this is going to sound weird, Ron, but like a lot of people during the 50 years of SNL were saying like people like James Brown, people don't really recognize James Brown as much as they recognize Eddie Murphy's impression of James Brown. To me, this guy is Lincoln. Like more so than Lincoln himself. Like this guy is Lincoln. And so I was like, there's Lincoln, but he's out there selling lightning rods.
Yeah.
End of
No,
rant.
the
I
whole
don't
time
know,
I'm
man.
trying to remember. I thought he was like a kid actor in one of the like old Disney movies. I just couldn't put two and two together until like near the end of it. I'm like, oh, that's the name. Like that was actually distracting me for like most of the movie was trying to think about that.
Well, he was in a lot of westerns. As I go back through
Yeah.
his IMDb, he was in Lost in Space. He was in Bonanza. He was in Daniel Boone. He was in Guns of Will Sonnet, like a Big Valley, a lot of stuff like that. But the last thing he did was the Hall of Presidents in 2017. and then he passed away in actually his voice was last updated. He died in 1994. So like, but the last time it was updated, they still used his voice as the Hall of Presidents. So
Yeah.
he's been Lincoln for forever. All my life that I can remember him as Lincoln.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I just couldn't place it. For some reason, I'm like, no, it's not Pinocchio. He wasn't Pinocchio. Was he the kid? Was he like Arthur? Like I thought it was one of the Disney kids, but it took me a while to realize who it was because I just couldn't
yeah.
place the name.
But I mean, he even like looks like Lincoln. I don't know, something about him and the way he's there, and I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was a cool tie-in, but the rest of the cast is unknown to me. Those are the people that I recognize when I go back in and look
Yeah,
at this cast. But you're right. I mean, I feel like the Diane Ladd character, the Pam Grier character, the some of these I feel like probably had bigger roles in the original version of this, and then they just got dialed back because Mrs. Nightshade doesn't seem necessary. Like Jim is kind of necessary, the kid, because he and Will are the ones that get in trouble. They're the ones that get on Mr. Dark's bad side because they've been curious and they find out what's going on, and then they kind of keep it to themselves a little bit because they don't want to tell anybody.
yeah.
But Mrs. Nightshade, his mom, is like, she's I don't know what's going on there. Ron, is she?
Lamenting her lost husband, like she's kind of lost it waiting for him, and I think we get that kind of more near the end. Like it's kind of a little laid out, and that's like it's not your husband who's meeting you here. Go home. Like
Yeah,
so she's kind of locked herself away, and Jim's kind of had to raise himself. It seems like he is the like as you said, he's the man of the house, has to protect it. So both of them want his dad back. I mean, Jim's telling stories about where his dad's gone to kind of justify his absence, but they both want the dad back for to be that family whole, and
yeah.
it
No,
feels like
I
it's a
yeah,
half a story. Like it should have been presented a little better. Like it's too subtext for a 90-minute movie.
yeah. Um, so anyway, that's the cast. One of the things visually about this movie is it feels like a Disney movie because of the matte backgrounds.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, and
the
again, for better or for worse, like when I look at The Love Bug or Mary Poppins or any of those, that's like definitely a hallmark of a Disney movie. And like
well, it's
when I
also a
look at a
hallmark of
scene,
the time.
yeah, I guess you're right. But when I look at this, you can kind of see them green screened out, and like sort of the leaves are a little wonky in the way they look. But they use matte paintings and kind of like some motion video sort of movie situation behind them. But yeah, that to me always looks Disney. But I get what you're saying. It's probably of the time.
I was thinking about the cinematography of like the way they're moving through the woods at times. I'm like, there's something about the way the film looked at that period. I don't know if it was a certain type of film they were using in the like ways, but I'm like, huh, kind of looks like when they're passing leaves on Endor. Like it's just that like there's something about the way it was lit or the film stock they're using at the time because it was made obviously at the same time as Jedi. So like maybe I was just making that connection in my head, but just something about it is like this feels very early 80s, like all of it, the way the clouds are animated, like the matte paintings, all of it feels like a product of its time. And where they're trying to advance these green screen effects, like but it's still you but with the budget they're still using like the old like let's just draw on the negatives kind of like way to do the like lightning and like the creeping mist and stuff.
Yeah. But again, like we talked about, they had a original plan to do better. They just
Yeah,
they just had to
I mean
cut a
they
lot of
couldn't
it.
have when you can't afford Christopher Lee or whatever, like you just you're not going to be able to afford state of the art effects either.
Yeah. Let's talk about some inappropriate stuff. Because there was some weirdness in this that didn't, outside of this being a horror film, and I do think elements of it were intended to be a horror film. The scene with the boys surrounded by the tarantulas must have been horrifying for young kids to watch. Make it difficult for them to go to sleep because they can't sleep. The spiders are going to get me. So there was the element of that. Mr. Dark, like, aging rapidly, like Indiana Jones sort of a situation near the end. Those kind of things are horror, but like there's some stuff like
The
like
peeking in the
the
tent.
yeah, that was definitely one. But I was going to start with like the guy who sells the cigars, who rolls out the the statue, and how how today that would never happen. But also that he tells Mr. Holloway, you're gonna want those cigars from Cuba that are rolled on the plump, smooth. I'm looking at this right here, rolled on the plump, smooth thighs of Cuban ladies, and they say that line twice
Yeah,
in this movie, which just is
it's
like,
got to be from the book then, like obviously.
but again, like that seems like a thing that you would go ahead and leave out. There's no reason to have that in this movie for kids. I mean, again, it's not for kids. It's a family movie, but again, still a Disney movie. There's no reason to have that in. And then the scene you were talking about where they've lured the barber into the tent with the dancing girls, and then all of a sudden his shirt's off. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
What do we? What's the story there? Like, it's just, I don't know. But
None, yeah, and none of it. Yeah, like the whole thing, like you were talking about. Like there's just so much. It doesn't feel formed, and that's the big problem with it. Like all of these are just pieces that are like little vignettes of almost like a whole bunch of different ideas thrown together. It doesn't feel cohesive, and I think that's kind of why they feel weird. I mean, obviously, they're like, I'm a part of what you were talking about the Cuban cigar thing. I'm like, Cuban cigars were legal whenever this was supposed to be set. Like, was that an issue? Like, were they not? I always get the feeling that like Cuban cigars get legendary status now just because they're hard to get. Like, they're illegal. Not that like they are so much the best. I mean, I don't smoke, so I don't know, but I got that feeling, and I'm just thinking like that's what I thought was weird about that line to me. But I
yeah.
obviously like,
So here's what happens at its heart is that the idea is that this carnival comes in to punish the wicked and to grant their wishes, but then to make them a twisted version of the wish that they made. And the one that kind of hits the most is when they take the school marm and they turn her into the beautiful woman, because they talk about that at the very beginning. The narrator talks about how she was beautiful once, and and the most beautiful woman in the town. They make her beautiful, and then they make her blind, and I'm like, well, that's just mean. And I guess that's the whole point of it, is that they feed, this carnival feeds off of the misery, but it's not
yeah.
super clear that that's the thing. You have to like make some leaps that that's what's happening, but
Well, he says
they
it
make
intently at one point. Like Dark says that I think in his overly long speech to
to
Holloway. Like,
Holloway, yeah. But like when I see this scene, when it just seems like it was out of nowhere. And again, maybe we missed some stuff that they cut out. But the boys come to the tent and they see this is the barber, this is the cigar salesman, this is the bartender, and this is the school marm, and they've all been turned into the thing that they
right, and you
want and
have like
desire.
lust, greed, vanity. I don't know what the kid, like what's so horrible about being turned back into a full kid if you've been
Right.
like injured in war, right? Like
Yeah.
what's the bad part about that? Um,
You make a good point there, though, Ron. If he was injured in war, what war was it?
Like that's why I think it was after World War. Like originally I thought it was the teens, and then I'm like, well, he's the way they're showing his injuries. I'm like, he's probably a war vet, but it doesn't feel post World War II because like we would have seen more cars, things like that. Like
Yeah. Well, the scene where he goes and Ed goes into the Hall of Mirrors, and he's not even in the Hall of Mirrors yet, and he looks in and he sees his leg reappear, and he's like, "Oh, that's me," and then his arm reappears. Is it's like that's a nice creepy touch. Um, and then he goes into the Hall of Mirrors, and then we never see him again. Um, but again, they're not really explaining it to us. I think that there's a lot of pieces missing. I think that's what we have kind of agreed upon here, is that
Yeah.
in all of their redos of this thing, there were a lot of pieces missing to the puzzle. So, I want to get to Dark Speech in a second, but I want to thank everybody who's here tonight. I saw Rosita's in the chat, and Ronald, and let's see who else is out there. Veronica, Veronichat, I think is how you pronounce that. I'm not sure, but and then TSN 6899. Thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you coming and hanging out with us. Sorry for the rough start today to it, but hopefully you're hanging out with us, and you'll continue to hang out with us a little bit longer as we talk about this movie. And then also, don't forget, we have our trivia night Friday night and our pack meeting on Sunday night. We'll talk about that before we get out of here. But now I want to ask Ron some questions, some trivia questions about this movie, which may be painful for you, Ron, because you're like, I didn't really even want to do this, Rob. You you asked
Yeah,
me
I
to
wasn't
watch
even.
this
I
movie.
was not paying that much attention. I'll say that. When I tried to like as I'm watching the movie, I'm like, I'm trying to remember these things. I know Rob's gonna ask these questions, and then about like 30 minutes in, I'm like, I just don't care.
Well, all right, then buckle up. I don't know how much of the you may know some of these things. It was really kind of difficult because of it being so disjointed for me to really kind of like find things in there. But here's where I'm going to start: is the narration in the beginning. How old does the narrator say he was when this story took place?
I don't know. I'm gonna guess like 11.
12. Close. But that tells me that you're just guessing based on the age of the boy and not what
Yeah.
they said. So he said it was October of my 12th year. Anyway, what town does this take place in?
Greenville or Greentown, something like that.
Greentown. Yeah, Greentown, Illinois.
But just
Apparently it was a trilogy, a Ray Bradbury trilogy.
oh,
So, um, the Mr. Tetley does haircuts, but he also does shoe shines. How much is a shoe shine?
a dime.
A nickel. Pretty close. Pretty
That
close.
was my first thought, but I'm like, yeah, that seems too little.
Yeah. Rosita's playing along in chat, so I'll slow down a little bit. But I was actually going to ask you, when he was narrating at the beginning, before we said that about his 12th year, he was talking about how many pumpkins that town has.
Yeah, no clue.
He
Just
said
thousands
10,000.
is
10,000.
it's a lot of
Yeah,
pumpkins.
right. But that's not an official question. That's not an official question. Here is one though. Ed, the bartender, who we just talked about. He's an upbeat guy for a guy who has lost his left arm and his left leg. Wishes he could have played football. Has an unhealthy fascination with one particular team. What team is he a huge fan of? He talks about it constantly.
Northwestern.
There you go. You don't happen to remember that he's wearing a jersey. You don't happen to know the number of the jersey on. He's got the number on his back.
No, I noticed the jersey when the kid version walked by, but it was like 20 something, I
Yeah.
think, or
Ronald said Green Bay. Okay. Uh, yeah.
no,
So it is, but it's number 28. But I
oh, I
mean, they don't
guess
show. They don't show it.
is that
That's not an
just
official question either. The Northwestern was the question.
is that a Disney reference or was that like
Oh, you mean like a Mickey Mouse?
Mickey Mouse? Yeah.
I don't know. I see. I'm a huge Commanders fan, and the original Washington team, Darryl Green, was 28. I don't know. So anyway, so 12 years old, Greentown, Illinois. Shoe shine was 5 cents. Ed's favorite team is Northwestern. Here's the final question. In the tragic story that Mr. Holloway retells his son, he says they were on a picnic at what river?
No idea. I don't even remember him saying the
Uh,
name of the river at all.
yeah. Well, I'm gonna
Just
wait
remember he was like
one.
he would, the kid was 4, so that's like
Yeah.
when you were 4 and I couldn't save you because my dad thought you shouldn't teach boys to swim. Like it just was weird. All of it was just weird.
Well, here's why I knew this, or I felt like this was gonna come back, and I'll talk about that as soon as. I just wanted to give Rosita a chance. I think she said Rave River. It's Indigo.
Yeah.
The Indigo River is the name of it. So there you go. There's the trivia. Hopefully you guys played along, enjoyed that one, and as much as Ron did. But let's talk about that story though. Is that he, Jason Robards' character is, again, he's an older dad. He's sad that he's an older dad because he can't do the things that a younger dad could do with his kid, and he has a regret that is his deep dark secret, and his regret is that when his son Will was 4 years old, he almost drowned in a river, and that the next door neighbor Jim's dad, Mr. Nightshade, jumped in and saved him, and that's a dad's job to do. And he's like, we never really, he's like, I never really forgave him for doing my job,
Yeah,
and
never gave him credit for it. Like
right, exactly.
maybe that's
So
why he left town and left his son because you just his most heroic act ever, you just ignored him. It's your fault the Nightshades are alone, Mr. Holloway.
yeah. So maybe, I don't know, but I just kept thinking there's got to, like, again, I'm giving him too much credit, Ron, but I felt like there's got to be a purpose for them, because they tease that story once where he and Will are up late at night, and he's like, I got to talk to you. We got to have a talk. It's about when you were a kid and the Indigo River, and he's like, I don't want to have this conversation right now. And then later they meet up again, and he like kind of goads him into having that conversation, and in that conversation he talks about how Will had gotten into the water, that because his dad had always taught him that you shouldn't learn to swim for some reason, that he couldn't jump in and save him, and he felt like he was old and he was incapable, but that Jim's dad jumped in, but that he kind of held that as a grudge against him for doing his fatherly duty of taking care of his kid. And so apparently this is a shame that he has worn for the past 8 years. And so I kept thinking this has got to come back in some way. It's like either he's going to like jump in a river to save Will or to save Jim and right the wrong, or he's going to do something. And he kind of does that in going after Will at the end there, and like
Yeah.
kind of fighting for him. But you know what I'm saying? Like I felt like it needed a bigger payoff because they made it such a big deal to tell that story.
Yeah, like the whole thing about me being that's like it went nowhere. It really did. It just like so many threads, like you know, it's like someone like decided to like read about Chekhov's theories on like narrative storytelling and just go, yeah, let me see what I could do if I set everything up and just not let it play out.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there was an intended like payoff for it, or if they feel like that they actually did hit that payoff. Jumping around again, the scene that I think to me was the actually all made sense in a way. Now, there's a lot. I think I told you that I have a lot of questions about this one. This movie in general. There's a lot of scenes that make no sense whatsoever, as we've talked about, and maybe it was because they cut stuff. Like the whole scene where the school teacher like says this is her nephew, but it's really like this guy that they made him. There's no reason for him to have been there at all for this curse to have happened on her.
Yeah, and her nephew was supposed to come in town. So what happened to the actual nephew? Like, or was this planted in her head that this was going to be the nephew coming through? Like he throws the rock and make like to kind of like get the boys in trouble, but it's a thread that also just doesn't go anywhere again.
Right. No, exactly. Like this whole thing, Mr. Kugler is put on the merry-go-round. It's spun backwards so that he becomes a little kid. So he goes to her house, and then she thinks it's her nephew, and then he walks out and he throws the rock and then he runs away, and then she gets cursed with this beauty but blindness anyway that has nothing to do with this. So like his whole the whole amazement of him being made younger, the only thing that I can think of that makes this at all necessary is the death of Mr. Dark at the end, that we know because the going backwards makes you younger, that going forwards makes you older, and that's when we see him go all Indiana Jones.
Well, I thought the whole narrative thread was the dad longing to be young. I thought they were gonna be a little more explicit with using the merry-go-round as a plot device, as opposed to Dark just tearing pages out of a book, like in just a uselessly long like scene.
But that scene, Ron, is the only thing that made sense to me in the whole movie, because they're in the library. He's reading the book to the boys to explain to him about the carnival, why they're there, why they come back. They've been there before, what they feed off of, as you mentioned. This is the scene where they do that. And then he comes in, Dark comes in and basically like challenges Mr. Holloway and tempts him with being younger. And he's like, how about if you were 30 and you could be a good dad? And then he goes, no. And he rips a page out. He goes, well, what about 35? No. 36? No. And he counts through. And I get what you're saying is it's a little monotonous. But to me, it was
And
the only
and you see
scene
no
that really made sense.
temptation on, like, it could have been like, he's a good actor, so I think I have to blame some direction on this. Is
On
there's
Robarts?
no there's no look of, like, you don't feel that he's tempted to take it at any point. Like, that's what you need to do in that scene. You need to show the temptation to make Dark this men, like, if you could just, yeah, whatever, I'm just going to keep stonewalling you, and you're just going to sit here and be a horrible salesman. It's not a menacing thing. It's the temptation, like fighting the temptation is what would make that more menacing, and you just don't see it on Holloway's face at all to
Yeah.
me. It's just
Yeah. No, but again, to me, that entire scene makes the most sense and actually shows Jonathan Pryce with some acting chops. And I get what you're saying. Like Jason Robards just kind of stands there and doesn't really lean into it, but he does have some reaction of like he's contemplating it at least, even if he's not tempted by it. You can see that he's contemplating the idea of wow, like I could be, I could be younger or whatever. I don't know what the book has to do with it. I will give you that, like ripping the pages out, what that has to do with it, because apparently this was his father's, like, diary that he
and they
kept or
glow
whatever.
every time he rips one out. Like the book isn't what's going to make him young. Like none of it like ties together right. So it's like, oh, let's just throw an effect here to make this more pronounced.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't
Uh,
play tempted or contemplate to me. It looks like he's just annoyed and trying to figure out how to stall for time.
okay.
That's how I
Well,
I, I saw him. But
yeah, and you could be right with that one. I just again this whole scene made the most sense to me because there's something at stake. The boys are in the room. Dark is close to them. He's trying to flush them out. I kept expecting like Jim to screw it up by like pushing a book off of the shelf or something like that, and he didn't. Thank goodness, because I already had reasons enough to be a little bit upset with Jim. But in general, I liked this scene, and I feel like Jonathan Pryce actually acted in this one a little bit more. But if you disagree with that one, and then when we go, like, he goes through this whole thing, and then he tells him, I'm going to bring you so close, or I'm going to bring you close enough to death so you recognize it when it actually comes for you. And then when when Pam Grier comes in, he tells her, bring him close enough to death so he recognizes it when, like, it was the repeat of the same line within 3 or 4 minutes of each other. I felt like it
yeah,
was maybe again one of those scenes where like you write a letter and then you type a letter out and then you take a piece out and then you put something else in and then you realize you've said the same thing twice. Maybe that was it, that they made so many changes in this thing that like maybe he wasn't supposed to say it twice, but then they needed to have more space in there. I don't know. And then
they moved the
the thing.
cut. Or yeah, they moved the cut around of, oh, it's supposed to be this and it's supposed to be this. Well, let's put both in there. Yeah, Things
I
just
wonder if
don't
in the
feel.
original one that Dark was supposed to be the one to bring him close to death and not the Dust Witch, because he does this thing where he like grabs his hand and like rips his hand while he's there, and so he clearly has some sort of weird power that he's doing on him,
Yeah.
and yet like then why bring the Dust Witch in to do that too? I don't know. So it is a little bit still all over the place, but to me this scene was the one that made the most sense out of all the things that we saw in this one. The weird spooky resolution where Jason Robards is like turning older in the House of Mirrors and it's all smoky, and that was pretty bizarre too, man.
Yeah, it was like melting wax face. Like, and we knew the storm was going to be like from the very beginning that that was going to be the conclusion to it. Like, like the storm was inevitably coming, so it's more of just are they going to have time? Like he knew, like there's just something. It just they're just nothing felt good about the way the narrative was presented, and I don't want like Bradbury is a master storyteller, so I just don't understand what happened. Like that looks like straight out of yeah,
Raiders.
as you said, like no Raiders, Last Crusade.
Oh, Last Crusade. I gotcha. Yeah, I was thinking about Raiders when they open the ark and their faces melt off.
Oh,
But you were thinking when he drinks out of the wrong chalice and
yeah,
ages quickly and all that. Yeah, that could be as well. But it's just like, yeah, I don't know. And that was a long, painful death, and showing the special effects. And then what the heck with the guy that comes and picks up the body and carries it off at the end? Like, what's that about?
yeah. Like if they were gonna do that, or was like have the others come and like take him away, and that's like, oh, our leader's gone, we have to go off, but they're all still just getting blown away by the storm. Like
Yeah,
there's just no consistency in the story, and like and I say this with I have a million unfinished things I've written, over the years, and and it's a problem of mine is if I can't get the story perfect, I just kind of throw it away. But like, keep your story consistent to your story, and that's what goes off here. You can make things as wild as you want in fantasy or sci-fi, but follow your own rules. And this just doesn't seem to have any rules. It's just like whatever seems cool at the time.
yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's how it ends. You're right. It's like it all ends with this storm that we had seen coming, or that and for some reason he thought he was going to try to get around the storm by, getting the lightning rod salesman to, I don't know, tell him the secret of when the storm was coming or whatever, and it was weird. And like we talked about, it's like it seemed very disjointed beginning to end. It's like they had to wrap it up somehow, and they wrap it up. There's a huge storm, all the bad things go away, the boys are fine. We don't really know what happens to Mr. Tetley or the cigar salesman or
Yeah,
the old Mrs. Foley, Miss Foley. We don't know what happened to any of them. But at least we know Mr. Holloway and the two boys are safe, and that's really, I guess, all that matters. Is that this is what's the moral, Ron?
I mean that's part of it. It's trying to be a morality tale about you know your wishes, like the whole monkey's paw, like every kind of wish thing. But like they said, it looked like they were presenting all the characters as the deadly sins coming in and getting punished, not feeding off their misery.
Yeah,
It's just part of that inconsistency. It's like, what are we saying? What are we doing? And how are we doing it? And none of that goes from scene to scene in any kind of way that feels, you know, that feels fulfilling.
yeah. Well, I'm going to get your final thoughts on this one and put us all out of our misery here. But I do want to say thank you to everybody who joined us tonight. We appreciate it. Again, if you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Also, we have my son is doing a trivia show on Friday night at 8:30. So come hang out with us with him and his friends doing trivia, and the chat is a player in that. So be with us live on Friday night at 8:30, and then Sunday night at 8:30 is our Park Adventures Club show, where we talk about the theme parks and the latest news and topic of the week. So join us there as well. Before we get to the final thoughts too, I want to say a big shout out to the PAC. That's our Park Adventures Club. We appreciate you. If you want to learn more about it's our Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/GoPack. And thanks, of course, to our Zebra Mezzanine and our Treasure Room supporters, especially for helping us do what we do. A lot more content on the way. I just got back from Tokyo, and I'm gonna put together a bunch of different videos for Tokyo so that you guys can watch those. I've got a food review that we dropped a little while ago on this channel, and Shannon has a show, and Ron and Patrick did a review of their cruise. There's a lot of content here, so please go through the channel, parkadventuresclub.com. We appreciate you. But Ron, now is the time. Now is the best time, because I'm going to talk to you and say, hey, there's a lot of Halloween content on Disney Plus. If I'm a friend of Ron's, I know he's a huge movie buff and he has a lot of thoughts, and I come to you and go, hey, there's so much on there. I saw this Something Wicked This Way Comes is on there. Ron, would you recommend this movie?
I just can't. Like, I really can't. There's nothing I feel redeeming to be worth your time about this. It drops the ball constantly on what could be something good. I mean, is there a good story in here? Yeah, I think there is. It just is not a good movie. It just does not adapt itself well. It feels like there's either you need more time to flesh things out, or you need a shorter story to make it tighter, where you don't go on all these you don't have all these loose threads. One of the two needs to be done. And an hour and a half is like the precise wrong amount of time for this story to be told.
Yeah. Okay. You know what? I saw this come up and I was like, that's a movie I should probably know. That's a movie that hasn't been on Disney Plus. We've done a lot of Halloween reviews in the past. We've got a lot of them on here now too as well. But I thought maybe it's something I should watch because I haven't watched it. As a Disney fan, I love watching anything Disney. This one was not great. Watcher in the Woods was scary. And if it ever comes on Disney Plus,
did you get to see the original ending of that when you watched it?
I have it on
the
DVD.
Original creature?
I don't know. No, probably not.
I think it's a special feature on the DVD. If not, look it up here on YouTube. The original creature is really, oh my God, I can't even believe Disney was considering doing this kind of scary. Like, it is nightmarish on like a xenomorph level.
Well, I mean, in general, The Watcher in the Woods is a better movie. And so if you're going to watch some weird, freaky 1980s Disney horror film, don't watch this one. Watch The Watcher in the Woods. But The Watcher in the Woods is not on Disney Plus, so you'll have to watch this somewhere or watch that somewhere else. But this one, I'm with you, Ron. I can't really recommend this one because it seems like it was all over the place. It definitely seems like we see a lot of movies where we know there are a lot of rewrites. Rogue One had a lot of rewrites to it. The Good Dinosaur had a lot of rewrites to it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. This one, it looks like they did a bunch of rewrites and we're like, oh crap, we just need to put this out.
And it wasn't just that they did the whole redo at the end. They were redoing it part of the reason this whole fight between Disney and the director and Bradbury broke out is they were doing rewrites along the way. Like it's a sitcom, like, oh, this scene's not working. We're going to rewrite and reshoot the scene because we're telling the longer narrative and we want it done this way. We want it done this way. And then you try and fix it at the end. I feel this is the kind of thing that might just get scrapped at some point. And it shows why it was in development hell for so long. Is it looks like it's just a hard story to tell because there feels like there's a subtlety that's supposed to be in a narration that you get in a book, and you just don't get in a movie.
Yeah. Well, I was excited when it dropped. I knew you would have probably at least ventured into the book, so I reached out to you immediately. I am so sorry that I made you watch this movie again. I
You know,
apologize.
it's fine. It's
Next time
something
you
that you
pick
want to
something.
remember. And all right.
But again, thank you guys for being with us. We appreciate it. Thanks for sticking with us through a couple issues here at the beginning. And again, if you have any comments, please list them below. If you loved it, if you hated it, maybe this was your childhood favorite movie, and we've just like rained on your parade. And if that was the case, I apologize profusely. But I'm going to stand by the fact that this one was a puzzler. So, and you and I watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So there you go. But have a great week, everybody. Hopefully we'll see you Friday night, if not Sunday night. And if not, we'll see you next Wednesday night for another look on the plus side. Have a great one. Thanks, Ron.